The Corvette is one more step closer to the road. So we have it running. I put the transmission in gear and the transmission moved. Next is we have to do the brakes. So check this out. On every single wheel, I have done a new hose, a new caliper, and new pads. Okay? You might have thought, hey, why didn't you do the rotors? Well, if you look at these rotors underneath the rust, they're super, super smooth. There's no pits, there's no divots, there's no lines. They're not worn out, so I think they'll clean up pretty nice. The other thing that I did was I put a new master cylinder on the car. Now, let me tell you guys a little story. In my haste to get the master cylinder all in, I cross-threaded this brake line, and normally that would be a huge issue and would stop me, but luckily for me, since I have my parts cars, I just grabbed a new brake line out of one of them, threw it in, and I was done. Just took me an extra 5 minutes. What I'm going to do today, which is something I recommend you guys doing if you have any kind of brake problems, I guess, if you're bleeding the brakes and you're by yourself, is I'm going to do what's called a gravity bleed. So I open the bleeder on all the calipers, and then I let gravity pull fluid from the master cylinder to each bleeder, and I have a catch can for every corner of the car. What this does, I don't believe that this completely bleeds your brake system, but it definitely helps. It gets fluid everywhere it needs to go. All you have to do is you have to sit up here with a can of brake fluid and make sure you don't run your master cylinder dry. I have already bench bled this master cylinder, so we don't have to worry about that, but you don't want it to go dry, because if you do, you're going to bench bleed it again, and then you start all the way over. It always takes almost no time to get brake fluid out of this one, but the back passenger side is what takes forever. Again, just sit here and watch, and once you have drips coming out of all 4 calipers, you know you're ready to go, and you can actually bleed it with somebody pushing the pedal. That's how I do it. Here's the driver's side door panel. You can see how it's not perfect, but to me it's good enough to use. This is the armrest patch I was talking about in the other video. Basically covers up most of the cracks. If they're cracked up into here, they're not worth using again, but once it's on the car, you really won't be able to see this. There's a little bit of damage here, but again, to keep it all original, it's worth it. So one of the things that I have to do is there's this chrome piece here that gets removed, and then you have this old nasty carpet. You might think, oh, just leave the carpet, it's okay, but check this out. That's what it used to look like, and that's what time and moisture and sun and smoke did to it for 40 years. It's going to get replaced. It's pretty simple. We'll take the old carpet off. I use the 3M90 spray glue to put it on. It does a really good job. Heat and moisture don't really take it off. I've never had it where I needed the staples for it. That's what I've done on the other panel. Let me go show you that. So this is the driver's side, and here is the passenger side. So really, it looks pretty good. It's not perfect, remember. There's a little crack right there, and you can kind of see right here there's a little bit of damage. But honest truth, considering how original it is, it's not bad. And once the door is closed, not much will be able to be seen, especially where that cracking is on the door panel. The seat is really going to go in front of most of that. So it looks really good. We have all the upper panels installed and cleaned up except for the very front one, but we'll get to that one piece at a time. Here's a quick shot of the driver's door panel. I know it's kind of glary. There you go. Looks pretty good. I'm hoping this interior will come together really nice, which it really should. Here is the frame for the rear doors in the back of the car. Now this is original. There are some cracks. So there's one crack here, and there's one crack here. The thing is, once you put it in the car, it kind of closes up. Right now it's uneven, so it's opened. But I want to show you guys, this is the die that I'm using for the seats and for all the other trim that needs it. And then if you look, I mean, it's not a perfect match, but it's pretty close. It's going to be close enough. So I decided to go ahead and basically reuse this. I'll probably put a few little repairs on the bottom of the frame just to give it a little more rigidity. But this holds the carpet down, so it's an important part that if yours is in like 8 different pieces, you probably should get a new one. They're pretty cheap, but I'm going to go ahead and use this one again. I'm just going to give it a little bit of paint so it looks a little bit nicer, but it will clean up fine. Now the frames around the doors are toast, and those I'll make a clip on how to put the new frames around those, and that's a whole different job. But for right now, this is what we're doing. A common problem on almost all C3 Corvettes 77 and down is that the screws that go into these little wells that this trim panel pinches it in between the body and holds it on the car, they like to pull out whenever you try to take them out. So in order to fix this car correctly, I could just throw these panels back in and call it good, but I don't do that. I'm going to go ahead and glue these little, they screw in like that. I'm going to go ahead and glue them into place so that next time if somebody needs to take these apart, that they won't come apart again. So we have one on that panel, and then this top one came out, and then that one came out. So those need to be glued back in before they can go back on. I know you guys have been waiting on an interior update, so I'm going to give you one. So all the back carpet is in, glued down and ready to go. You already saw that the door panels were installed, but I also got this rear trim all installed and put in. The seat belts all put in, and it looks way better than it did before. I got a little bit of tidying up to do on some of the corners of the carpet, but definitely better. Next, what I have to do is I have to clean up the center armrest, and also I have to figure out this emergency brake handle. I don't know why it's not, the handle doesn't really fit on anymore. I might have to put a whole new one on. We'll see. We'll get to that when we get to that. I went through my parts stash and I got myself a emergency brake handle that works. It's exactly the same as the one I have. This is the difference. I guess there's maybe a spring in here that's missing on my other one, but that's what makes the difference right there. So I'm just going to bolt that one in, no problem. I do want to show you this. So here's the center console, here is the emergency brake console from the 77. And people have always asked me what I use to clean my interior parts. Now, I use this. Scrubbing bubbles. You might think that's a little weird, but let me show you. So what I do is I spray it on. I let it sit for about 10 seconds. Usually let the bubbles go down a little bit. And then I take a toothbrush and go pretty much in circles one way and then circles the other way. And the reason why is because there's that, I guess, texture in it, and you need the bristles in order to hit all the texture. I want to show you the difference. Grab the rag. I can make a commercial. You do want to be careful with scrubbing bubbles because it is acidic, very acidic, and it will take off color on certain things. It's pretty safe for most of the 70s Corvette stuff, but for example, the 58 Chevrolet that I had a long time ago, I used it on the dash and it wiped the paint off. So, just be careful what you use it on. But it works great for stuff like this. That's what I use it for. So you can go from dirt to clean fairly easily. I usually do it about 2 or 3 times in order to get the best results, but that's how it works. I don't know if I showed you guys this in a previous video, but there's 2 problems with this column. It obviously looks a little bit different than it did in the last video that you guys saw, because I've completely disassembled it. There's all the pieces to it. So the 2 problems that it was having was there was a loose bolt here in the back that caused the column to wobble. And I don't know if you can see this, but if you look down in here, there's that bolt right there. So that bolt, I tightened it up and now the column's not wobbly, so that's good. The second problem that it had was the turn signal switch was broken off. And the problem with the 77 columns is that the turn signal lever runs the washers for the windshield wipers, it runs the windshield wipers, it runs the brights, and it runs the turn signal. So 4 different things in one switch. Now, I have this all apart, and let me show you on the bench that actual switch. Here is the turn signal switch and washer switch and bright switch all in one. So the way that it works is that when you move it up and down, it pivots like this to run your turn signal switch, which is right there. Then when you move it forward and back, it runs your brights, and then that pivots it that way. This little lever moves like this. See that, how that moves? And that runs, I believe, your brights. And then when you push it in, according to the lever, that runs your washers. And then when you push it the other way, that runs your wipers. So yeah, a little bit crazy. I did find a problem where there's a broken wire on it. So that needs to be taken care of. Here's the 1 year only housing that I had to take off. But like I said, I'll get it all back together and get it all working correctly. It's taken me basically 2 days to figure this out. But I figure when the car goes up for sale, to have that all that stuff working is going to be much better. But this switch by itself isn't reproduced. They should reproduce it because they'd make a mint. But these usually go for about $150 used. So I'm glad mine's still in somewhat good shape. After putting this switch together, I can kind of show you how it works. So you push in on the stock, and that makes that contact right there for the washer. Obviously, it goes up and down to do the turn signals. You rotate it like this to do the wipers, and then you pull it like this to do the brights. So yeah, 4 different things on one column switch. That's crazy.